John Wayne's long battle against cancer came to an end last night when he passed away at the UCLA Medical Center.
The phone rang at 4:47 on the morning of May 29, 1979. Clint Eastwood woke instantly in the dark bedroom of his Carmel-by-the-Sea home, already knowing a call at that hour could only mean bad news. He reached for the receiver and heard a familiar voice on the other end. "Clint, it's Moran." It was Moran Wayne, John Wayne's daughter, and her voice trembled as she tried to hold herself together. "Dad's asking for you. The doctors say it won't be long now." She stopped there, unable to finish the sentence. "I'll leave right away," Clint answered, already swinging his legs out of bed. "Tell him I'm coming."
And I want to hang around as long as I'm healthy and not in anybody's way.
After hanging up, he sat silently for a moment, letting the weight of it settle in. John Wayne was dying. The Duke, the towering legend of Western films, the man who had always seemed larger than life, was finally at the end. Clint and Wayne had only made one movie together 6 years earlier, The Shootist. At first, the production had been difficult. They came from different generations and carried very different ideas about the American West and the heroes who lived in it. But somewhere during filming, the tension faded into mutual respect. What began as cautious admiration slowly turned into friendship. They stayed in touch after the movie whenever life allowed it. Phone calls, dinners, the occasional letter. Clint knew Wayne's cancer had returned, and everyone understood how serious it was. Still, hearing someone is sick is different from hearing, "Come now, this is the end." He dressed quickly, told his wife where he was going, and drove south through the quiet California darkness toward UCLA Medical Center in Los Angeles. The hospital was nearly silent when Clint arrived shortly after 9 a.m. A nurse guided him through pale, empty hallways to a private room on the 4th floor. Outside the door, several of Wayne's children sat waiting, exhausted from sleepless nights. Moran stood as Clint approached. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. "He's been asking about you since last night."
Do you fear death?
I don't look forward to it because it's, as you know, I don't care what faith you have.
"How is he?" Her eyes filled with tears as she glanced toward the closed door. "He's still trying to be Duke, still acting strong, but the cancer's everywhere now. They're giving him morphine, but he refuses enough to sleep. He says he wants to stay awake, says there are still things he needs to say." "Is he awake now?" She nodded, then gently touched Clint's arm. "Be ready. He doesn't look like himself anymore."
President Carter issued a statement today about the death of John Wayne. Mr. Carter said, "In an age of few heroes, he was the genuine article."
Clint took a slow breath before opening the door. The room was dim and quiet, the curtains drawn tight against the morning sun. Machines gave off soft, steady beeps in the dark hospital room. The air carried the sharp smell of medicine and sickness. Clint stepped closer to the bed and finally saw John Wayne clearly. Moran had warned him, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The Duke had always seemed enormous, a man whose presence alone could dominate a room. On screen and off, he carried the weight of a giant, but now he looked painfully small beneath the blankets. Cancer had stripped at least 50 pounds from his frame. His skin had turned pale and gray, and the powerful hands that once gripped revolvers in countless westerns rested weakly against the sheets. Only his eyes remained unchanged, sharp, clear, still unmistakably John Wayne.
I feel that I have to be a part of it. I can't shirk it off onto somebody else. If I feel that I have something that is worthwhile saying, I say it.
"Eastwood," Duke muttered, his voice rough but steady. "You made it." "Of course I did," Clint replied quietly, pulling a chair beside the bed. "You asked for me." A faint smile crossed Wayne's face. "Always figured I could count on you, even back when we were fighting over whose version of the West was the real one." Clint gave a small laugh. "Yeah, I remember." "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Like hell," Duke answered, "but at least I'm alive enough to feel it." He shifted slightly and winced from the pain. "Doctors say maybe a few days, maybe a week if I keep fighting." He paused. "And I always fight."
But I've always had deep faith that there is a supreme being. There has to be. You know, it's just, to me, that's just a normal thing to have that kind of faith.
Clint felt emotion rise in his throat, but kept his expression calm. "You've never backed down from anything." Wayne chuckled weakly. "Turns out cancer doesn't care much about toughness. Can't shoot it with a six-shooter." The laugh became a cough, and Clint waited while he caught his breath. When Wayne finally settled again, his expression grew serious. "I didn't ask you here so you could sit around watching me die," he said. "I asked because there are things I need to say. I'm listening." For a moment, Duke stared toward the darkened window, gathering strength. "Do you remember how much we disliked each other when we started the shootist?" Clint nodded. "You thought I was destroying Westerns. I thought you were stuck making fairy tales with perfect heroes. And the truth is," Duke said softly, "we were both right and both wrong."
And he says, yeah, you shoot him, just shoot him, get rid of him, because you got 4 other guys. And he says, "I don't shoot anyone in the back."
He looked directly at Clint. "That picture taught me something. There's room for both kinds of Westerns, the old kind and the new kind. Tradition and change don't have to kill each other." Clint stayed silent, listening carefully. "You taught me that," Duke continued. "Your films were darker, harder, more honest about violence and people. At first, I hated that." He smiled faintly. "Then I realized the world had changed, and Westerns had to change with it." "Duke, no, let me finish." Even weak and dying, his voice still carried command. "You're the future of Westerns, Clint. Maybe the future of movies altogether. You've got the eye for it. You care about the work. Long after I'm gone, people will still be watching your films." Clint leaned closer, unsure what to say. Wayne slowly reached out his hand. Clint took it carefully, shocked by how light and fragile it felt. This was the same hand that once looked unbreakable on giant movie screens across America. "I spent 40 years selling audiences a myth," Duke said quietly. "Brave cowboys, clear good guys and bad guys, and I'm proud of those films. I always will be."
He said Clint Eastwood would have shot him in the back. And he said Wayne turned blue.
He paused before continuing. "But deep down, I knew the real West wasn't that simple. It was brutal, complicated, unforgiving, closer to what you put on screen." "Your movies gave people hope," Clint replied. "Mine just show reality." "Exactly," Wayne whispered, "and both matter. People need myths to believe in, but they also need truth. It needs John Wayne, and it needs Clint Eastwood." Duke tightened his grip on Clint's hand with the little strength he had left. "Promise me something." "Anything," Clint said quietly. "Keep making your films. Keep pushing Westerns forward. But don't lose everything the old Western stood for either. Keep some hope in there, some honor. Even in dark stories, people still need to believe there's light somewhere." Clint sat silently for a moment, absorbing the weight of those words. "So that's why you wanted me here?" he asked. "To tell me to keep making Westerns?" "Partly," Duke answered. "But there's more." He shifted painfully against the pillows, refusing once again to ask for more medication. "I'm dying, Eastwood. A man thinks differently when he knows the end's close. You start wondering what actually lasts after you're gone." "Your films will last forever," Clint replied. "Probably. But that's not the legacy I care about most." Wayne's eyes sharpened with sudden intensity, stronger than his failing body. "What matters is what I passed on to people. The actors I worked beside, the crew members, the young kids who came to me looking for advice. He paused, breathing heavily. You know how many people I've worked with in 40 years? Thousands. And I always tried to teach them something. Not acting. Hell, I was never some great technical actor. I'm talking about professionalism, showing up on time, respecting the crew, being grateful you even get to make movies.
Maybe he isn't the kind of a father that I have to my children. Maybe he's a little different. Maybe he won't be as nice to me as I think he will. But I think he will.
Clint nodded slowly. You taught people that. Everybody who worked with you says the same thing. I hope so, Duke murmured, because that matters more than the films themselves. Movies fade, styles change, but people remember how you treated them. His grip tightened again. And now you're the one people look at that way. You're not just an actor anymore. You're directing, producing, running sets. Whether you realize it or not, young people are watching you the same way they watched me. Clint leaned closer. What have you learned? The crew matters just as much as the stars, Duke said immediately. Maybe more. His voice weakened, but the conviction behind it never did. I've seen young directors walk onto a set acting like kings, treating crew members like servants. Those people never last. The good ones understand filmmaking is teamwork. He pointed weakly toward the floor, as though imagining a movie set around them. The grip setting up lights, the script supervisor catching mistakes, the caterer feeding everybody after 14-hour days. Every one of them matters. I try to remember that, Clint said. I know you do. I watched you work. Duke gave a faint smile. You're good with crews, better than most stars ever are. But don't stop there. Learn their names. Ask about their families. Make them feel seen. Most people in this business spend their lives helping create magic while nobody remembers their faces. A violent cough interrupted him. Clint instinctively reached toward the nurse's call button, but Duke waved him off impatiently. I'm all right, just let me finish. After catching his breath, he continued. Another thing, don't let success soften you. Clint listened carefully. I've watched it happen over and over. Somebody makes one-hit movie and suddenly they think they're bigger than everyone else. They start showing up late, demanding nonsense, treating people badly. And eventually, Clint asked. They fall apart, Duke answered. Maybe not right away, but eventually. Ego catches up to everybody. He looked directly at Clint again. You avoided most of that. I tried to. No man's perfect, Duke said, but you stayed disciplined. That's rare in this town. I had my moments, Duke admitted quietly. Plenty of ego, plenty of stupidity, but I always tried to remember where I came from. Tried to stay humble about the life I was lucky enough to have. He looked directly at Clint, his tired eyes still carrying authority. You're at that point now, Eastwood. You've got success, money, respect. You could spend the rest of your career playing it safe and people would still call you a legend. Clint shook his head slightly. That's not what I want. Good, Duke said firmly, because I need you to promise me something. What is it? Don't get comfortable. Keep challenging yourself. Keep taking risks. Make films that scare you a little, the kind where you're not even sure you can pull them off. Clint nodded without hesitation. I promise. A faint smile crossed Wayne's face as he relaxed back against the pillows. Good. That's how artists stay alive. After a moment, he continued. And one more thing. Use your power to help people. Clint listened carefully. You've got influence now. Studios trust you. Producers listen when you speak. Use that to open doors for other people, young actors who deserve a chance, directors with talent but no reputation yet, crew members trying to move up. Like you did for me? Clint asked softly. Wayne gave a weak chuckle. You didn't need much help. You were going to make it anyway, but I tried to do that for people whenever I could. That's the only kind of legacy worth leaving behind, lifting others while you climb. A soft knock interrupted them. A nurse stepped into the room carefully. Mr. Wayne, you really need to rest. Your vitals... I'm all right, Duke interrupted, still stubborn even now. Give me 30 more minutes. The nurse hesitated, then looked toward Clint. He nodded gently, reassuring her. Reluctantly, she stepped back out and closed the door. Duke turned back toward Clint, breathing harder now. Time's running short, he said. So let me get to the important part. What's that? The real reason I asked you here. The room fell quiet except for the steady beeping of the machines beside the bed. You and I represent two different eras of Westerns, Duke said slowly. My kind and your kind, traditional heroes and morally complicated men, old Hollywood and the new version of it. Clint remained silent. There's this idea floating around Hollywood that your Westerns replaced mine, that the newer films killed the old Western. I never believed that, Clint said. I know you didn't, Wayne replied, but a lot of people do. And before I go, I need to say this clearly. His voice suddenly grew stronger, driven by emotion more than strength. Your films didn't destroy the Western genre. They saved it. Clint stared at him quietly. You kept it alive by evolving it, Duke continued. The world changed, and Westerns had to change, too. You made stories that spoke to a harder, more cynical generation. That wasn't disrespectful to what I did. It honored it. His eyes glistened now. When I die, a certain kind of Western dies with me. The simple world of clear heroes and villains. That era is ending. He paused painfully for breath, and that's all right. Clint felt tears forming in his own eyes. Genres are supposed to evolve. Stories are supposed to grow. If they don't change, they disappear. You understood that before most people did. Duke, Clint whispered. No, Wayne said softly. Listen to me. His voice had become fragile again. You're carrying the genre forward now. That's why I wanted to see you. I needed you to know I'm proud of what you've done with it. Clint lowered his head for a moment, overcome with emotion. You're not disappearing, he said quietly. Your films will outlive all of us. Wayne gave the faintest smile. Films are just strips of celluloid, Eastwood, he murmured. Eventually, even those fade. They get forgotten, Duke said softly. What survives is what you teach people, the values you pass on, the inspiration you leave behind. He paused, struggling for breath before continuing. That's why I wanted you here. I need to make sure the right things keep getting carried forward. Wayne reached weakly toward the glass of water beside the bed. Clint quickly picked it up and helped him drink. Even that simple task now required assistance, and seeing it shook Clint more than anything else had that morning. Thank you, Duke whispered as he settled back against the pillows. Then his eyes focused sharply again. Now listen carefully, because this is the important part. I'm listening. I spent my whole career playing heroes, Wayne said. Men who were brave, certain of right and wrong, willing to stand tall no matter what. And people criticized that. A faint smile crossed his face. Hell, you criticized it yourself when we first met. Clint gave a quiet nod. People said my characters were too simple, too clean, unrealistic. And you disagreed? Clint asked. No, Duke replied. I think they were right. That answer surprised him. Wayne continued slowly. My characters inspired people precisely because they weren't realistic. They represented what people wished they could be, stronger, braver, better than ordinary life allows. He shifted painfully, fighting through another wave of discomfort. They were myths, but myths matter. Clint listened carefully as Duke gathered strength again. And your films matter too, because the world also needs honesty. It needs stories that admit life is complicated, that good people fail sometimes, that morality isn't always clean. He looked directly at Clint. It needs John Wayne to show people what they could become, and Clint Eastwood to show them what they really are. The room went quiet for a moment. So, what are you saying? Clint finally asked. I'm saying our films were never enemies, Duke answered. They were part of the same conversation, two sides of the same truth. He coughed hard into his hand before continuing. When I die, and I know that's coming soon, people are going to start talking about the end of an era. They'll say the traditional Western died because the world became darker. They'll blame modern films for destroying old values. His voice suddenly sharpened with passion, and they'll be wrong. The machines beside the bed continued their steady rhythm as Duke spoke with surprising intensity. The Western isn't dying, it's evolving, and you're one of the people keeping it alive. Clint felt the weight of those words settle heavily on him. You're making Westerns that younger generations understand, Wayne continued. You're keeping the genre relevant instead of letting it turn into a museum piece. That's a big responsibility, Clint admitted. You can handle it, Duke said immediately. I've watched you work. You care too much about the craft not to. He paused again, exhausted now, but determined to finish. But I need one thing from you. Anything. When you make your Westerns, the dark ones, the complicated ones, leave room for hope. Clint frowned slightly. Hope. Yes, Duke whispered. Not fairy tales. Audiences are smarter than that. They know life is hard, but people still need to feel there's some chance at redemption. His grip tightened around Clint's hand once more. Don't make the world so bleak that there's no light left in it. Even in violent, broken worlds, people need to believe a man can still choose to do the right thing. Clint felt emotion tightening in his chest. That's what I want my legacy to be, Duke said softly. Not just the heroes I played. Not the cowboy hats or the gunfights. He took another slow breath. I want people to remember the idea underneath it all, that heroism is still possible, that people can choose to become better than they are. That nobility matters, Duke said softly, and I want you to carry that forward. You want me making John Wayne Westerns? Clint asked with a faint smile. Wayne shook his head immediately. God, no. The world doesn't need poor copies of what I already did. I want you to make Clint Eastwood Westerns. Dark ones, honest ones, but films that still admit redemption exist somewhere inside all that darkness. Clint sat quietly for a long moment before speaking. Can I tell you something, Duke? Of course. When we worked together, I was arrogant. I thought my version of Westerns was smarter than yours, more realistic, more important. He looked down briefly. Truth is, I looked down on what you built. I know, Duke answered calmly. I could tell from the first week. Clint gave a small, embarrassed laugh. You could have destroyed me on that set if you wanted to. You had all the power. One word from you and my career would have become a nightmare. But I didn't. No, Clint said quietly. You didn't. Instead, Wayne had done something Clint never forgot. He treated him with patience, respect, even kindness. You taught me something instead, Clint continued. You showed me there's wisdom in giving audiences hope. That clear morality isn't childish just because it's simple. His voice cracked slightly with emotion. Every Western I made after working with you changed because of that. I started leaving room for redemption, for mercy, for the idea that even flawed men can still choose to do better. Duke's eyes filled with tears.
You already understood it, he whispered. That's why I knew I could trust you with this.
For a while, neither man spoke. The machines continued their quiet rhythm beside the bed while sunlight pressed faintly against the closed curtains. Outside, Los Angeles moved through another ordinary morning, completely unaware that inside this room, one of Hollywood's greatest legends was preparing to say goodbye. Finally, Duke spoke again. There's one more thing I need to tell you. What is it? Wayne hesitated. Then, in a voice Clint had never heard from him before, he said, I'm scared. The words hung heavily in the room. For decades, John Wayne had played fearless men, sheriffs, soldiers, cowboys who never backed down from anything. Millions of people believed that strength was real. Hearing him admit fear felt almost unreal. Scared of dying? Clint asked gently. Partly, Duke admitted, but mostly, I'm scared of being forgotten. Clint stared at him. Duke, that's impossible. You think so now, Wayne murmured, but time forgets everybody eventually. His breathing had become rougher now, every sentence costing him energy. I know people say my films will live forever, but what if one day I just become some outdated symbol, some old relic future generations laugh at? Clint leaned forward immediately. You're John Wayne. People are going to remember you long after we're gone. Wayne smiled sadly. Nobody's immortal, Eastwood, not even legends. For a moment, he stared toward the ceiling. I spent 40 years building this image, the strong hero, the confident man who never doubts himself. He paused. But most of that was a performance. Clint frowned slightly. What do you mean? I mean, John Wayne isn't real, Duke whispered. Not completely. The room felt even quieter now. My real name's Marion Morrison, just a nervous kid from Iowa who got lucky in Hollywood. John Wayne was a character I created. His eyes drifted back toward Clint. And now I'm terrified that the character is all anybody will remember. Clint felt his chest tighten painfully. The real man, Duke continued, the insecure kid who worried he wasn't good enough, the man who struggled with fear and doubt, I'm afraid he disappears when I do. That's not true, Clint said firmly. Your family knows who you are. Your friends know. Everybody who worked with you does. But that's memory, Duke answered softly. And memory dies with people. He looked directly into Clint's eyes. That's why I'm telling you this. I need somebody to remember the truth, that behind John Wayne was just a regular man who worked hard, got scared, made mistakes, and kept going anyway. Why tell me? Because you'll understand someday. Clint stayed silent. You're building a persona too, Duke said. The man with no name, Dirty Harry. Clint Eastwood, the tough guy. A faint smile touched his face. That's not the whole truth either. Clint didn't answer. One day, Duke whispered, struggling for breath now, you'll wonder if anyone really knew the person underneath all of it. So I'm telling you, Duke said weakly, don't make the mistake I made. Clint stayed silent, listening carefully. Don't hide behind the persona so completely that you lose yourself inside it. Let people see the real you sometimes, the uncertain version, the scared version, the human version. Clint looked down for a moment. I don't know if I'm good at that. You are, Duke replied immediately. Better than I ever was. His breathing was rough now, but his voice still carried conviction. I watched you work. You let audiences see fear, doubt, pain. That's why your performances connect with people in a way mine never fully could. Clint wiped at his eyes. Duke, you're being too hard on yourself. Your performances were incredible. Wayne smiled faintly. They were effective. They did what they needed to do. But they weren't emotionally honest the way yours are. He paused before continuing. That's the evolution I was talking about. You took the things my generation did well, the screen presence, the confidence, the charisma, and you added truth to it. That's not true. It is, Duke whispered. And it's all right. The next generation is supposed to grow beyond the last one. That's how art survives. For a moment, he closed his eyes from exhaustion before speaking again. But promise me something, Clint. What is it? When you reach the end of your life, don't die regretting that nobody ever knew the real you. Clint's expression tightened. Don't spend your whole life hiding behind Clint Eastwood, the icon, until Clint Eastwood, the man, disappears. I promise, Clint said quietly. Wayne nodded slowly. Good, because that's what happened to me. The words came out softer now, almost fragile. I became John Wayne so completely that somewhere along the way, Marion Morrison disappeared. And now, he gave a weak smile filled with sadness. Now, I'm not even sure which one was real anymore. A knock interrupted them. Morin carefully opened the door and stepped inside. Dad, the doctor says you need to rest. I know what the doctor says, Duke muttered stubbornly. Just give me 5 more minutes with Clint. She hesitated, worried by how exhausted he looked, but finally nodded and stepped back out. The room fell quiet again. Duke turned back toward Clint. We're almost out of time, he said. So listen carefully. This is what I really want you to remember. I'm listening. Wayne slowly lifted a trembling finger, almost as if counting the lessons one by one. First, your films matter. The westerns you're making matter. Don't let critics convince you otherwise. Clint nodded silently. Second, don't lose yourself inside the image. Let people see who you really are sometimes. Be vulnerable. Be uncertain. Be human. I'll try. Third, use your influence to help people. You're going to have power in this industry for a long time. Use it to lift others up instead of protecting your own ego. I will. Duke swallowed painfully before continuing. Fourth, his voice cracked. Remember me as Marion Morrison, not just John Wayne. Clint felt fresh tears rising immediately. Remember me as a regular man who loved making movies and tried his best to treat people right. Clint could only nod. That's the legacy I actually want, Duke whispered. Not the legend, the man underneath it. He took another shaky breath before forcing out the final point. And fifth, the important one. Clint leaned closer. Keep westerns alive. Duke's eyes locked onto his. Change them, evolve them, make them darker if you need to. Make them modern, but don't let the genre disappear. I won't. Promise me. I promise, Duke. For the first time since Clint entered the room, Wayne smiled fully. A genuine John Wayne smile. Warm, strong, unmistakable, even through the damage illness had done to him. Thank you, Eastwood, he whispered, for everything, for working with me, for listening to me, for carrying this forward after I'm gone. You already carried it farther than anyone else ever could, Clint said. Wayne chuckled weakly. Maybe. Ask me again in 50 years. Even Clint laughed softly through the emotion. Then Duke's expression turned serious once more. One last thing. What is it? Come closer. Clint leaned near the bed. With visible effort, Duke lifted his hand and rested it on Clint's shoulder. Thank you for being my friend, he whispered. The words were barely audible now. For seeing past the legend and caring enough to see the man underneath it, and for sitting here listening to a dying old cowboy talk too much. Thank you, Duke whispered. Clint leaned forward and carefully embraced him, afraid of hurting him with even the slightest pressure. The once powerful man felt painfully fragile in his arms. No, Clint said quietly. Thank you for everything you taught me. For a long moment, neither man let go. When they finally separated, tears were running down both their faces. Duke cleared his throat roughly, trying to reclaim a little of the toughness that had defined him for decades. All right, get out of here, he muttered with a weak smile. You've got movies to make, westerns to save. Clint laughed softly through the emotion. And I need to rest, Duke added. Clint slowly stood, though every part of him wanted to stay. I'll come back tomorrow. Maybe, Duke whispered, his eyes already drifting shut from exhaustion. If I'm still here. Clint's chest tightened. But if this is the last time we talk, Wayne continued softly, I want you to know something. His eyes opened one final time. I'm proud of you. Clint swallowed hard. Proud of what you've done. Proud of what you're going to become. A faint smile crossed his face. You're going to be greater than I ever was. That's impossible. No, Duke whispered. It's inevitable. The room fell silent again. Then, with the last burst of strength Clint would ever see from him, Duke said, Goodbye, Clint. Make me proud. I will, Clint answered immediately. I promise. He stood at the door for a long moment before looking back one final time at the dying legend resting beneath the dim hospital light. Then he stepped into the hallway. Morin was waiting outside. Thank you for coming, she said softly. It meant everything to him. Clint nodded slowly. It meant everything to me, too. Will you come back tomorrow? If he wants me to. She looked down briefly before speaking again. You know, you're one of the few people who ever really saw him clearly. Most people only saw John Wayne. You saw my father. Clint could not find words through the emotion tightening in his throat. He simply hugged her goodbye before walking through the long hospital corridor and out into the bright California sunlight. Once inside his car, he sat there for nearly 20 minutes, crying before he could finally drive away. John Wayne died on June 11th, 1979, 2 weeks after that conversation. Clint was filming in Canada when the news reached him. He immediately flew back to California for the funeral. After the memorial service, Morin quietly approached him, holding a sealed envelope. Dad wanted you to have this, she said. He wrote it 3 days before he died. Clint opened it carefully. Inside was a single handwritten page in Wayne's unmistakable script. Eastwood, if you're reading this, I'm gone.
Good. I was getting tired of hospital food anyway.
Remember what I told you, especially the part about not losing yourself inside the character. I made that mistake. Don't do the same. The Western is in your hands now. Make your dark, complicated films, but leave room for hope. Leave room for redemption. The world needs both. And when you reach the end of your life, be at peace with who you really were, not the roles you played, the man underneath them. Thank you for being my friend. Marion Morrison, also known as John Wayne. Clint folded the letter carefully and placed it inside his jacket pocket. For years afterward, he carried it with him almost everywhere. Whenever he doubted himself, whenever Hollywood politics exhausted him, whenever he needed perspective, he would take the letter out and read it again. And over the following decades, Clint kept every promise he made in that hospital room. Pale Rider explored redemption through the story of a mysterious stranger. Unforgiven went even further, examining violence, guilt, aging, and the possibility that even deeply flawed men could still change. Each film pushed Westerns into darker, more complicated territory while still preserving the humanity Duke believed mattered most. Critics noticed it too. One reviewer famously wrote that Eastwood's westerns carry the ghost of John Wayne, not in style, but in spirit. And Clint honored Wayne's lessons off-screen as well. He became known for running disciplined, respectful film sets. He gave opportunities to unknown actors, struggling filmmakers, and hard-working crew members who simply needed someone to believe in them. The lessons Duke passed down in that hospital room stayed with him forever. Treat crews with respect. Stay humble no matter how successful you become. Help the next generation rise, and never let the Western die. And Clint tried to keep that promise. Not perfectly, not every day, but he tried. As the years passed, he became more willing to let audiences see pieces of the real man behind the Clint Eastwood image. In interviews, he occasionally admitted uncertainty, talked about fear, and spoke honestly about self-doubt and aging. He no longer seemed interested in pretending to be invincible. Behind the legendary characters and hardened screen persona was simply a man who worked hard, questioned himself, and sometimes felt afraid like everyone else. In 1993, when Unforgiven won the Academy Award for Best Picture, Clint stood on stage holding the Oscar and dedicated the win to everyone who taught me about Westerns, especially Duke, who taught me that tradition and evolution can live side by side. Years later, in 2000, Clint was invited to speak at a Western Film Heritage event honoring John Wayne. The room was filled with actors, directors, historians, and old Hollywood veterans. When Clint stepped to the podium, the audience expected stories about classic Westerns and filmmaking legends. Instead, he told them about the hospital room. Duke was dying, Clint said quietly. He was in pain. He knew the end was close. But what mattered to him wasn't himself. It was the future. The room fell completely silent. He wanted to make sure I understood the responsibility that came with carrying Westerns forward. He told me to keep making complicated films, to show darkness and moral ambiguity. But he also told me never to lose hope completely. Clint paused for a moment, emotion breaking through his normally controlled expression. He believed Westerns had to evolve to survive, but he also believed they should still remember where they came from. Many in the audience were visibly emotional now. And more than anything, Clint continued softly, he wanted people to remember that behind John Wayne was a man named Marion Morrison, a kid from Iowa who worked hard, doubted himself, got scared sometimes, and still kept going. He looked out across the crowd. That's who I want people to remember, not just the icon, the human being underneath it. The audience rose to its feet in a standing ovation. After the event, an elderly woman slowly approached Clint backstage. "Mr. Eastwood," she said gently, "I'm Duke's sister." Clint immediately stood straighter. "I wanted to thank you for what you said today," she continued. "Most people only talk about John Wayne. You remembered Marion." "He asked me to," Clint replied quietly. She smiled sadly. "I know. He talked about you often in those last weeks. Said you were one of the few people who truly saw him." Then she reached into her purse and removed an old photograph. "I think you should have this." Clint carefully took the picture. It showed a thin, awkward 12-year-old boy smiling nervously at the camera long before Hollywood transformed him into an American legend. No cowboy hat, no swagger, no John Wayne, just Marion Morrison. Clint stared at the photograph for a long moment. "Thank you," he finally whispered. "This means more than you know." Later, he framed the photo and hung it in his office. Whenever visitors asked about it, Clint would point toward the young boy in the picture and say, "That's Marion Morrison before he became John Wayne. Before the legend, just a regular kid who wanted to make movies." Then he would usually pause before adding, "That's the person Duke wanted remembered most." By 2010, Clint Eastwood was 80 years old himself, one of the last living giants of Hollywood's Western era. During an interview reflecting on his long career, the conversation eventually turned to John Wayne and the lessons he left behind. The interviewer asked Clint Eastwood about the people who had influenced him most throughout his career. Clint talked about Sergio Leone and the revolutionary westerns they made together. He mentioned actors he admired and directors who shaped the way he approached filmmaking. But then his expression softened. "The biggest influence," Clint said quietly, "was a conversation I had with John Wayne 2 weeks before he died." The interviewer leaned forward immediately. "What happened?" Clint was silent for a moment, as though replaying the memory in his mind. "He was lying in a hospital bed, dying of cancer," Clint said, "in terrible pain. And instead of spending that time talking about himself or his own legacy, he spent hours talking about responsibility." The room had become completely still. He talked about using influence to help other people, about staying humble, about not losing yourself inside the image you create. "What was the most important thing he taught you?" Clint thought carefully before answering. "He taught me that legacy has nothing to do with awards or fame," he finally said. "It's about the people you help, the things you pass on, the example you leave behind." He paused briefly. "And he taught me something else too. That tradition and evolution aren't enemies. You can honor what came before while still moving forward." The interviewer nodded. "Do you still think about that conversation?" Clint gave a faint smile. "Every time I make a film." He leaned back slightly in his chair. "Every time I work with a younger actor, every time I'm tempted to choose the easy path instead of the right one. Duke's been gone for decades, but I still hear his voice sometimes." "What does it say?" Clint smiled again, softer this time. "To do better, to stay human, and to leave room for hope, even in dark stories." "That's an incredible legacy." "It is," Clint agreed. "And it's the legacy he actually wanted." The interviewer looked curious. "What do you mean?" "Most people remember John Wayne, the icon," Clint explained. "The fearless cowboy, the larger-than-life hero. But that's not how he wanted to be remembered at the end." Clint's voice lowered slightly. "He wanted to be remembered as a man who helped people. Someone who cared about the craft. Someone who tried to lift others up." "And is that the legacy you want too?" Clint nodded slowly. "It's the legacy Duke showed me was worth chasing." Now in his 90s, Clint still keeps the letter Duke wrote him shortly before his death. The paper has yellowed over time, and the folds are worn from being opened and closed countless times across the decades. But Clint never threw it away. He still keeps the photograph, too. The picture of 12-year-old Marion Morrison before the cowboy hats, before the fame, before the world knew the name John Wayne. Just a nervous kid dreaming about movies. And Clint still carries the lessons Duke gave him during that final conversation in the hospital room. Lessons about responsibility, about humility, about staying human even when the world turns you into a symbol. When younger filmmakers ask Clint for advice now, he often tells them about Duke. Not about the movie star. About the dying man in a hospital bed who spent his final days trying to help someone else instead of feeling sorry for himself. About the legend who desperately wanted to be remembered as a human being. That's what matters in the end, Clint tells them. Not awards, not money, not fame. He says the real measure of a life is whether you used your success to help other people rise, too. Whether you shared what you learned, whether you stayed grounded enough to remember who you were before the world turned you into an icon. And when people ask Clint what he's most proud of after all these years, he rarely talks about his own movies. He talks about the actors he gave chances to, the directors he mentored, the crew members he promoted. Duke taught me that, Clint says. The work itself matters less than what the work allows you to do for others. Then he usually smiles that small, unmistakable Eastwood smile. He spent 40 years building influence, Clint says. And in the end, he used that influence to lift people up. That's the standard. And do you think you lived up to it? The interviewer asked. Clint thought for a moment before answering. I tried, he said quietly, still trying. Then he added the lesson Duke had left him with all those years ago. That's all anybody can really do. Try to leave the world a little better than they found it. The interviewer smiled. That sounds like John Wayne. Clint gently shook his head. No, he said softly. That sounds like Marion Morrison, the man behind John Wayne. The real person who worked hard, cared about others, and simply tried his best. That's the man Clint Eastwood says he tries to honor. Every year on June 11th, the anniversary of Duke's death, Clint keeps a quiet tradition. He makes a point to help someone else in the industry. Sometimes it's giving a young actor an opportunity. Sometimes it's mentoring a new filmmaker. Sometimes it's helping a crew member move forward in their career. For Clint, it's his way of carrying forward the responsibility Duke placed in his hands during that final conversation in the hospital room. And every year on that date, Clint rereads the letter. He looks again at the photograph of 12-year-old Marion Morrison before Hollywood transformed him into John Wayne. Before the myth, before the legend. Just a regular kid with dreams bigger than himself. And every time, Clint remembers that dim hospital room in 1979. The machines softly beeping. The fading strength in Duke's voice. The dying man who spent his final hours worrying less about himself and more about the future of others. Thank you, Duke, Clint quietly says on those anniversaries, for everything you taught me. Because somewhere inside the films Clint made afterward, somewhere inside the actors he mentored and the filmmakers he encouraged, John Wayne's legacy continued living on. Not as the fearless cowboy who never failed, but as the real man underneath the image. The man who worked hard, who doubted himself sometimes, who treated people with respect, who cared deeply about the craft, and who faced death not with bitterness, but with generosity. That's the Duke Clint remembers. That's the Marion Morrison who changed the way Clint Eastwood thought about success, legacy, and what truly matters at the end of a life. And that's why, more than 4 decades after that final meeting, Clint still carries those lessons with him. He still tries to honor the promises he made. He still works to be worthy of the trust a dying legend placed in him. Because some things matter more than fame. Some legacies are bigger than awards or box office numbers. Some conversations stay with you forever. And sometimes even a brief friendship can shape the rest of a person's life. That's what happened in that hospital room in 1979. A dying legend shared his final wisdom with the man who would help carry Westerns into a new era. For one last moment, John Wayne stopped being the myth the world worshipped and became simply Marion Morrison, a human being trying to leave something meaningful behind. And Clint Eastwood never forgot it, because in the end, Duke taught him that life is not about the roles we play. It's about the lives we touch. It's not about the legends we become. It's about the humanity we hold on to while the world turns us into legends. That was Duke's final gift to Clint. And Clint's gift in return was spending the rest of his life trying to live up to it. If this story moved you, make sure to like the video, leave a comment sharing your favorite John Wayne or Clint Eastwood film, and subscribe for more stories about Hollywood legends and the moments that shaped them. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.